all the way from Chicago, Miss G, otherwise known as Lady X. She is a Reiki healer, a dancer, a yogi, and ended a tumultuous marriage in 2014, which led her to start a secret blog, dearhusband.org, which she'll share how she expressed everything she couldn't express in person. And then this led to dearlifetraveler.com. I would love to read more about that. She writes about mental health and uses travel. I have a strong passion for traveling, which COVID kind of messed up, right? Uses travel as a form of therapy to help encourage emotional balance. And today she's here to show us, parents, aunts, uncles, teachers, grandparents, whoever interacts with children of all ages, how do we teach them to release negative energy when sometimes we're just talking, I don't even realize I'm releasing negative energy. I think I'm, expressing life lessons or words of wisdom, but I'm really releasing negative energy subconsciously, right?
Yep. So, so here's the thing with me, like, I don't have children, but I've been a dance educator for close to 20 years. And I've worked with kids from like ages 1.5 in dance, all the way to adult.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I've gotten my experience working with kids that way, or just being around children and like learning about their psychology and how to actually reach them effectively. And also I became an aunt when I was 3.5.
Oh my gosh. You started young.
I have 13 nieces and nephews, and I helped raise some of them. So kids have always been in my life. And maybe that's why I was like, I don't know if I want kids in my house, because I have them already all around me. But so like one of the ways actually that I like to encourage kids to express or to just release energy, it has been through dance and movement. Yoga classes, I teach yoga classes for kids, and also dance classes for kids. And I've always used those creative tools to help them kind of like find their own like language. Because to me, I always tell them like movement, that's just another language, so like this is where you can actually talk and say the things you really want to say. When kids are young, sometimes when they don't want their parents to know or whatever, they kind of create like a secret language, right? Gibberish or whatever, things like that, like just little ways for them to communicate with each other so that they have their safe space. Mm-hmm. So I like to introduce movement like that for kids to kind of be like, encourage them to be like, this could be your secret language. Like, this is where you can release anything you want to release, and when you're here in the room with me, or when you're in class with me, like, let's not invite those negative emotions to stay with us while we're learning something new. Like, let's maybe put that on pause, learn something, right? Learn a new technique. That way, when it's time to process those emotions, like, now you have a new way to do it.
So do you ever come in with I'm sure you have kids who walk in and they're filled with anger or resentment or maybe even depression, and they're forced to come to class. They want to, and yet because of whatever's going on, how do you deal with that?
I've always been like, my classes were always like therapy. It was always like, I want to teach you something. I want to change your life. I don't want to just teach you an 8 count of dance moves. I want to actually teach you life lessons that you're going to take with you throughout your life. Wow. So I would always talk to them. It was never like, it's time to dance, no talking to me or whatever. There would be a lot of students that sometimes they would come up to me before class and they would want to tell me something, and I would listen to them, and I would give them, the best advice that I could at the time for them to at least be able to stay in the moment, to be like, I'm sorry that you're going through this, but right now we're in dance class, and this is the place where you don't have to think about it just for the hour, or maybe you don't have to carry that, and you can just breathe through it, or just pause the brain for a moment so you can focus on this, and maybe that'll help elevate your mood, things like that. I've had I've had like young students that will come and they would be bullied at school. So it would show up in class, because then when I'm telling them, okay, we're learning this new dance move and it's hard, and they immediately shut down. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's too hard. I can't. And normally, like, you would get annoyed at something like that, as the educator, you're just gonna get annoyed, like, oh my God, like, stop being a brat, right? But I would try to look at the root and just be like, okay, why? So this was my number one question. When they say, I don't like this dance move, or I don't like this dance, or whatever, I'd be like, why don't you like it? And then they would just think, and I'm like, do you not like it because it's hard? And then most of the times it was, yes, I don't like it because it's hard. And I was like, well, why don't you like to do hard stuff? Like, why does that scare you away from that? And so I would start asking those type of questions, and then I would slowly but surely I would get the answer. Oh, because, I just could never do that, and it makes me feel bad, or whatever. Or this one girl, I remember I had this one girl, and she just blurted out one time. She's like, I'm not, what did she say? It was like, we were doing some dance moves across the floor, and I just out of nowhere, because it was hard for her, she like, I'm not ugly, okay? I'm not ugly. And I was like, I just stopped for a moment, and I was like, we're going to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
Have a conversation. I even invited everybody else to kind of be like a source of support for her. And that's when I found out that she was being severely bullied at school, and people would call her stupid and things like that. So that's where I started to strengthen her by not allowing her to quit. And I would always tell her, I'm not going to quit on you unless you quit on me. And even then, I'm probably still not going to quit. So as long as you don't quit, I'm here with you. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get this move. I don't care if it takes you a whole month. I don't care. All I care is that you try. And as long as you try, trust me, you're going to get better. It's going to happen. Like, there's no way that you're not going to get this if you just keep trying. But I'm not giving up on you. And so I just would be that, like, that wall for her in class. And anytime she would start with her little, I'm like, we're not quitting. We're not quitting because we can do this. She would try that, especially, how kids change in front of their parents.
Yes.
Right? Then they get more bratty, or they don't want to listen, or things like that. I would stand firm, and she would be in front of her mom saying, I don't want to do this, or this is blah, blah, blah. And I would look at her dead in her eyes, and I'd be like, we're not going to quit. Okay. We're going to get this. We're going to do it really slow. Come on. And then we would just keep going. And by the end of like that whole school year,
you got it.
Completely transformed, where she was not questioning me anymore. She would be like, oh, this is hard. But that was as far as it would get. Like, she would just continue to go. So that to me was like just one more confirmation that something so simple, such as a dance class, you can use that as an opportunity.
That's a huge life lesson. But I remember someone told me, approach it with curiosity. If someone says, this is stupid, I don't know why we have to do that. And then it dawned on me to say, why? Right? Why? And a lot of times it's like, because we're never going to do this in real life. When am I going to know this formula in real life? But I guess the lesson is, if you want to go to the next grade, if you want to graduate from high school, there's a lot of stuff in life that we don't want to do.
Right. But I think is, knowledge is power. Just the more
knowledge is power. Because I have a lot of sixth graders who say, I think we should never continue school after sixth grade. Can you share your background, Dear Thief, and how it came to be, Lady X?
So this is one of my letters. I write letters on my blog for emotional release. With kids and stuff, I haven't introduced this because I'm a performance artist. But this was more of like a personal thing for me, to like just another way, because I was already releasing through dance, but then just because it's a business for me, it kind of lost a little bit of that therapeutic effect for me, or maybe just because I've been doing it for so long, I was like, I need outlet.
Another outlet.
Yeah. So writing became a thing for me. And this particular letter, was about a relationship that I had. And I felt like this person took advantage of me, um, maybe unknowingly. He thought that he was doing something right, but it ended up backfiring, and it just was not like, it soured the relationship almost immediately. So I had to talk about it because I felt almost like, in part, I was mad, not just at him, but I was mad at myself, because I was like, why why would you put yourself in this situation, knowing that there is a potential for you to get hurt and then sour this relationship that was supposed to remain intact. So this is just an excerpt from that letter. But yeah, like, my letters are not just to people, they're also to things, bad habits, mental imbalances. I talk to my depression, I speak to my anxiety, I talk to my personality traits. I do still, from time to time, speak to, like, relationships, things like that. But yeah, I created Lady X because I just wanted to have, like, a safe bubble.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows me as Miss G. I'm a performance artist, so, like, that is the name everybody knows. No one even knows, or if, I mean, my close friends will know my actual name, but no one uses it. So if you see Miss G and then attached to that, I almost feel like I would have to be filtered.
Mm-hmm.
So I created Lady X so that I could just speak and just write. So yeah.
So is that the dearlifetraveler.com, or is that the...
Yeah, that's dearlifetraveler.com. Dearlifetraveler.com is a blog where I just speak on my take on mental health, and just, I use my personal experiences to convey messages that might help somebody else cope with their thing, that they have going on in life. Just to kind of be like that person that's like, hey, you're not alone. I'm going through this too, right? Because that kind of almost makes us feel a little bit better when you're not the only person.
Oh, it inspires us with hope, that...
Right.
You say you are not the only one. Do you encourage like your students to write, or do you just focus on dance?
Actually I do. I've had even students that have come my way that didn't even really like dance. And I was like, I love you, but, like, why are you here?
Well, because your parents, probably, it's kind of like my students, right?
Yeah.
Oh, when is tutoring going to end? I don't like tutoring. And I would say, tell your parents, don't force you. And the parents are like, you have no choice. You are going to see Miss Karen for tutoring. And then I just apologize and say, well, I always tell parents, don't force them, because then it's not a pleasant experience. So that's what probably happens, right? You are going
because you're being forced to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would tell one time, this one girl told me that. She's like, because my mom's making me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? And I was like, honestly, I feel for you. So I'm sorry that you have to be here when you don't want to, because dance is not your thing. But I was like, since you got to be here, let's just make the best of it so you don't have such a horrible time every time you come. Yeah. So she was like, okay. So when she saw that I kind of came to her with that, where I was like, I understand how you feel of having to do something you don't want to. Here, let me try and make it better for you. She actually responded a lot better and was way better in class. So I use those opportunities when I come across kids who are, just going through things. And I'll tell them, like, you don't have to just dance. You could draw. Do you like coloring? Do you like to draw? Maybe write? Do you write stories? Like, things like that. Like, I had one student who started her blog while, like, she was in class with me, like, throughout that year.
Wow.
She started her blog, and she would tell stories. Like, she would make up stories and just write them out. And I was like, send me your link. I want to support. And I was like, yeah, keep writing, keep going. That's amazing. Like, to any art form or anything like that, writing is an art form. So anytime that I could get my, get the attention of them and kind of, like, talk to them about exploring different art forms, like, yeah, writing. if you like writing stories, write stories or something, or, write a little book. Like sometimes they would come to class with little books that they would actually make. Like, here, I want you to read my story. Tell me what you think. So that's kind of like the role I've always taken. It was never just, you're just a yoga teacher, you're just a dance teacher. It was like, I'm actually involved in what you're doing. I'm going to ask you next week how last week's test was that you were telling me you were scared of, things like that. Like, I try to stay involved like that, just to create that connection. That way I can help in some way or somehow to inspire them to find multiple outlets for them to stay in like a balanced state of mind.
You know what? And I just realized, if parents took that role, instead of, I'm the parent, I rule this household, you listen to what I say, and like you said before, it disconnects you. But if you take that parent, it's almost like taking the parent hat off, or I'm calling it a parent revolution, right? We are just changed. I think the pandemic has changed the way we parent, but it's driving a lot of parents and teachers and like aunts, uncles crazy, because they don't know what to do with this annoying child, or they don't know how to, like, it's like, what do I do? Like you said, and you're stuck. Like during quarantine, a lot of parents are like, what the hell happened? What? Now they appreciated teachers, and yet they didn't like, we never liked a lot of people complained about what was going on in the classroom, but when you had them 24/7, you, like any teacher, just go away, right? For at least 8 hours. Yeah. But what would your suggestion be for parents to start reconnecting? Because your child just knows you as, someone who lectures, someone who gives you scoldings or punishments, consequences. How do you evolve or almost like transform? Because your child may be thinking like, because even my daughter's, are you, wait, why didn't you parent us like that? I'm like, because I didn't know any better. Yeah. But any tips so that there's a lot of healing that has to be done, right? A lot of parents unknowingly, and I was guilty of it, I'm realizing that you can apologize no matter what, because this is what happens when they're adults. Remember when I was 10 years old and and sometimes you're like, wow, that one little interaction. Remember when you said, and I thought, wow, and I was 7. I remember we were in the car and you think, I can't redo it. Yeah. But I've read that apologizing, no matter how many years, decades, all that person needs is to be heard, right? Yes. Understood. Yes. Not judged. And it takes setting your ego aside. Yes. Right? Because at first you think, why are you and my 19-year-old always reminds me, don't minimize, right? Whatever they're going through, don't minimize. Because this is my husband. When I was your age, I said, I know, you walked 10,000 miles in the rain, whatever it was. In Maui, it's totally different. I was an only child, so I didn't have to walk 10,000 miles. My parents just drove me. So then you have 2 different parents. Yeah. And then one feels like you're enabling them, and then one feels like, well, I don't like to walk, so I'll drive them. And then I'm realizing, okay, how do you prepare your child for adulthood without being mean, or without, what it is, putting on, like when you have your students, how you shared about how your mom raised you, there's a part of you that remembers, wow, this is how it's done. But I think because, right, so you either change it or you repeat. Right. You repeat what you've learned because that's all you know. And so a lot of the parents in my generation, their 50s, they're like, you know what? I turned out fine. Like, that, I don't know about that, right? And I was hit. My parents used, I don't know, in Hawaii, it's like the rubber slipper or, ruler, whatever it is. But these kids lack discipline. These kids need to be taught who's boss. But then, what happens? When they become adults, you're like, well, I haven't seen my grandchildren. I don't know why my son never calls me.
You know how you teach a kid that you're the boss? You have to get these kids to trust you. It's real simple.
It is. And you know what I've read, and I realized, if they lie, why just, one of the moms that I coached asked this, how do I handle lying? Because I needed to stop. And the reason why kids lie is they don't feel safe to tell the truth.
Yes.
So one of my friends said she was physically and emotionally abused, so she learned to become a master manipulator, a master liar, because you don't want to get in trouble. But then
that lie. I'm a great liar. I can cry. I can do all of that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I can't. And so I manipulated my mom who has Alzheimer's, and Japanese are really into like guilt. So I'm like, I made the doctor's appointment, and all I want you to do is go. Okay, I'll go. Thank you. And then one time my daughter, I don't know, I think she was 21 at the time, just, oh my gosh, Mom, I can't believe you did that to Grandma. Because it was a fake cry, but it worked. And I said, you know what? If I ever have Alzheimer's, do whatever it takes for me to go to a funeral, to go to a doctor's appointment. You don't understand. It is manipulative. Yes, I admit it. But you're on survival mode. I need to get her. I'd be like, the doctor just called. We waited 6 months for this appointment. You cannot cancel. He's coming over, or we're going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want you to go.
Yeah. It's trust. It really is. It's trust. I'm not a parent. Again, I'm not a parent, but like,
one
dance class.
Yes.
If we go to dance class, right? As me being a non-parent, just being someone else. If I can get your kid to do whatever I say in that classroom, then you can most certainly do it too. Because I'm not spanking your kid. I'm not scolding your kid. I'm not yelling at your kid. Your kid trusts me. Your kid trusts everything I say. He or she feels very safe with me and knows that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's why they do whatever I say in the classroom. So I really believe that it's rooted in trust. Discipline, all of that, it's rooted in trust. I also believe that just acknowledging that their life is not yours.
Ooh, that's a hard one, isn't it, though? I was telling someone, a grandma, I tell my girls, even if I don't agree with it, I want them to choose what they want. And the grandma was like, how am I going to say that? I'm not going to say that to them. And I thought, because she says, you better do it this way or else. And I thought, even when they're 4, you know what? Do you want to get it? And I was like, I'm sure Grandma doesn't mean it. No, I mean it. I mean it. You are not going to get, am I going to have blueberries and cream? You're not going to even eat. And I'm like, and he knows I'm serious. And he looks at me. And I just think, is there a way to regain or reestablish one? So say you have like a 15-year-old and you did the whole thing that created an environment that promoted or that led to lies, right? Because parents just blame their kids. They don't realize that they created the environment,
right? And
they kind of, right? Yeah. If you have a child rolling their eyes, disrespecting and giving you attitude, I mean, not to point fingers, but we, as a child, I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
Right. We've all been there, but we forget when you become a parent, you just think, you know what? I'm the parent, you're the child. Just do what I say and your life will be fine.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of message. Yeah. You think it's possible, though, to recreate? I mean, how do you recreate when
it's possible? Yeah, of course. I think I really do believe that anything is possible. It doesn't matter how old you are. You know that saying that goes, can't teach a old dog new tricks? I don't believe in that. I don't. I think that transformation is possible at any age. So, if you're having, if you're having problems with a child lying to you, how do you recreate that? I think honestly, like talk therapy might probably be one of those things where you can have that space with that child to be vulnerable, talking, really just talking and practicing non-judgment, when they make mistakes.
Because one of the moms said, I think he's going to start first grade. And she said, what kind of consequence, what kind of punishment? So we tried to, I explained about the punishment, which would foster more lying. And sometimes it's a natural consequence, because what happens is if a kid repeatedly lies, you can have that conversation. What do you think about saying, the boy who cried wolf story? And it is hard to trust, but it's possible to regain trust. But that's a very, I don't know, hard environment.
But a lot of people need to suffer the consequences, whatever the consequences are always going to be way more impactful in their
than a punishment, right?
Else, yeah. Just allowing whatever, if just being that guide, just remembering that they came to this earth through you, but don't put yourself into their lives. Don't like insert yourself as like a dictator. Think of it more of like you are just their guide on this earth.
Yeah.
If I go to another country, right, and I have no idea about the food, culture, language, nothing, right, and I get a guide to kind of take me around so I can explore this new country, right? Am I going to be, does the guy, and just thinking about it now in traveling terms, when you're traveling, you get a guide, is the guide yelling at you all the time? And
yeah, you better try this food right now.
Go down this road right now, or you won't enjoy it.
And don't ever eat that. You want to eat that? No, you don't want to eat that.
So now we think about it. So would you enjoy that tour? No, you'd be like, give me a new guide. What is this?
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. So if we try to transform our roles and just be like, you know what? This is a person who has never gone through this because this is their first experience on earth. First experience. Okay. So they know nothing. So I don't own them. They're not my slaves. I'm not their boss. I am just their guide. And I'm their teacher. And I'm their first and most important teacher on this earth. I have many teachers, but I will always be the first and the most important. So I'm just going to guide. This is what's going to happen if you do this. This is what's going to happen if you do not. Like, make your choice. But just know that whatever consequences, come up, with your choices, like that's just what it's going to be. And guide them through that while they're going through that consequence. Guide them through that to not fear failure or not necessarily. And when I say don't fear failure or don't fear the consequences, that doesn't mean encourage them to do stuff and be reckless. That encourages, what I'm talking about is more of like, when you're going through something bad, instead of being like, this is horrific, this is horrible, my life is over, what I want you to do is look for the life lesson. Yeah. Where's the lesson here? Because once you go through that and you find that nugget, right, that life lesson, the aha, okay, this is what I learned. Now, when you go through again and you go through the rest of your life or whatever, another moment, you will have that. Now that's your other tool. Like now you've equipped that child with yet another tool for them to fend themselves in this world.
Without punishing it, right? Without punishment. That's the thing. A lot of parents think that they do, because she was telling me, what do I punish this child, this 6-year-old? And I said, it's natural consequences. So there's no punishment. I just let him lie. But it's not letting him lie. Like you said, I love that, like talk therapy and just get to the root. Like, why did he feel he had to lie? Yeah. And 9 out of 10 times, because I didn't want to get in trouble. I didn't want you to know that I fill in the blank, right? Right. Right. It's for me, it's very, that subject is tricky for me because I came up with, being hit, and I wouldn't do that now because I understand better now how the mind works, just me growing up as a child and how I felt. So I wouldn't necessarily do that, but I also wouldn't necessarily like not impose some sort of a consequence. Instead of calling it a punishment, I would just call it like a consequence, Right. Maybe that's like connected. Right. If you're on the phone for too long and then you stayed up too late and now you're tired, like the consequences that you still have to go to school. Like, I'm not going to let you sleep in, like that's the consequence. So you got to go. Like if you are, you got
I don't know, you didn't do something that you were supposed to do, well, you know, now you're gonna have to do double the load because you just on yourself. Like, I was watching a TikTok of a conscious mom. She does conscious parenting, and she like shares a lot of tips and stuff. And one of the things she was saying is like, let's say your kid has to do dishes like every night or something. Like, that's their job. They got to do the dishes, and they didn't do them one day. So instead of being like, oh yeah, why didn't you do the dishes? Da, 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 just be like, dang, you missed that night. Now you're gonna have double the load on Tuesday. You know, like, that's your consequence. Like, now you got to do Mondays and Tuesdays dishes on Tuesday because you slacked that one time. You know, so just having those, like, this, just letting it happen, not protecting the kids so much. You know, I think.
Well, not only there's no lecturing, it's very matter of fact. You're just saying, oh, well, now you have to do,
Like, what it is, like, I mean,
right, which is a very different energy. But you know what? Why didn't you clean your room? Why didn't you? And I think that's where, when you're angry, you know how you're talking about it, when you're angry, the compassion, and the, you know, I'm going to teach them a life lesson. I swear it just flies out the door, and you know, you react. And in the midst of your reacting, you even say, I really shouldn't be doing this.
Right. Yeah.
But once your brain I just read that it's like 90 seconds. You have 90 seconds to just stop in the moment. Yeah. After 90 seconds, it can last for hours, weeks, months, or years. I mean, you can hang on to it. But that 90 seconds is so crucial. And how many of us, after 2 minutes, you're like, oh, you know, well, I got to say this. I can't, you know. It's like you're on that roller coaster, and it's not like, okay, I'm going to stop. It's already, the Pandora's box has opened, and you're like, you know what? I didn't want to say this, but. Yeah.
No, I think one of the things that people sometimes tend to forget is that kids are so intelligent.
Yes.
They are sponges. They're absorbing everything. So that's the moment when you want to be the guide and not the dictator. Because that's the moment they're going to be picking up these, like, very important lessons, you know, when they're in their childhood. Like, that's where you either get all of your trauma or all of your biggest, like things when you're in childhood, because that's the most impressionable time of your life. You know, that's when the brain is literally just like, give me information. So feed them the information, even the consequences. Like, let them go through it. Just, again, be the guide. Be that guide to just be like, all right, here is what might potentially happen if you go this way or if you go that way. Make your choice, and, you know, just whatever comes through, like, you're just allow them to go through it. Because if you are constantly trying to protect the kid, and when they're adults, they're not going to know what to do.
Well, I think that's what's happening, right? That's what we're seeing now, because they've always been, you don't realize the coddling, but like moms where, you know, I've had moms charge their teenager cell phones, or make sure that, I don't know, everything is done. And then they go to the dorm, or they go on their own, and they think, wait a minute, what do I do? You know, what cell phone plan do I buy, or what, you know, what do I do with my child? You become a mother.
Yeah.
And you have no idea, because I have one last question. So, because a lot of people ask me about academics, if your child happens to fail, I have a lot of, you know, parents who say, you know what, you are not failing. In fact, you're not even going to get a D. You know, you need to focus, do your work, and just do it. And then the child, of course, yes, I turn it in. Yes, I turn it in. Yes, I turn it in. Nothing gets turned in. So I had one student with 48 missing assignments. Ooh. And the teacher actually said, you know what, during Christmas break, I will give you a second chance. And the mom's like, oh my gosh, this is a blessing. And he says, during my break? So you're telling me to do 40 assignments during my break? And she says, this is a second chance. This is a huge, huge gift. So you're going to do it. And he says, No, I would rather just have a fresh start, get the F, and yeah, I'm gonna have a fresh start. And she's like, wait, what? And then, of course, a lot of, and then I guess what can you do? I tried to coax him, tried to tutor him. Then I realized, you know what? Then it became my stress because I felt like I had to make sure that these assignments were done. Then I finally had to pull away because I became like on the mom's side. And I pulled away and I said, you know what? We cannot force this. And if he fails because I had to learn that. When my daughter failed and I saw that D, I saw that F, oh my gosh, I was reading The Gift of Failure, Embrace Failure. I mean, everything I could get my hands on. And in the back of my mind, though, I was trained. I did extra credit. And how you were talking about in your French class, you tried because I loved the feeling of getting an A. And then you realize, guess what? That is not something that your child inherits. A lot of times, I'm fine with the D. I'm fine with the F because it's not important to me. I want to enjoy my break, or I want to, right? Boys have told me I would rather do video games. So I tell dads, it's like the Super Bowl, and then I say, it's just a football game. Turn the game off and, do something productive. And then it's a different, you know what I mean? So what would you say to a parent, who says, I cannot allow my child to not strive for, to learn the work ethic in their head. They really believe they're teaching the value of a work ethic. And then it becomes like serious, resentment on both sides.
Yeah. So I'm going to make an observation just based on what I'm hearing. It sounds like the reason why he's probably not motivated is because she's probably doing a lot for him on a daily basis. To me, it sounds like he's kind of like spoon-fed everything. She just said, right, what you just said, I end up taking over on the stresses. I'm stressed now. I feel like I got to get it done. So she's taking that burden that should be on him, and she takes it and carries everything. It's like, here, what other burden you got? Give it to me. Boom, boom. So they're walking together through life, and she's doing all of this, and he's walking like this. Wow. That's what it sounds like to me. So mentally, psychologically, that could be why he's like, I don't care, because if I don't carry it, guess who will carry it? And I'm never going to have to think about it again. So I don't care. That's what it sounds like to me. So I agree that allowing him to get that F and seeing how that affects him later on in life is what he needs. And don't carry anything for him. Continue to guide him and let him know what the expectations are, right? Like this is what you got to be working on. But then just let him catch those Fs. I don't.
And it's not the end of the world, right? I think that's what I realized. I realized when I saw that D or F, it's like, wait, what does it mean to me? And as a parent, you believe, and it's not very true, that you believe I failed as a parent because I couldn't motivate my child. I'm an educator. Oh my gosh, I can't even motivate and educate. I would force her. We're going to do this math. You're 30 assignments behind. It's Saturday night, 5 hours. And my husband would like, step away. And she'd be like, am I done yet? Am I done yet? I'm like, no, I'm teaching you perseverance. And we're going to be doing this. And it killed me.
Yeah.
Because I thought, what does that do,
I'll relay like an experience, just being a dance teacher in a classroom. One of the ways that I got kids to be accountable for themselves is I always told them, I was like, you guys are going on stage. I'm not going on stage. You're going on stage. Like, you're going to dance this in front of your parents and all your friends and stuff like that. I'm not. I'm going to be behind the wings doing this, okay? So I'm like, it's really up to you. Do you want to go on stage and look like crap? I mean, that's up to you. That's not up to me. I'm not going to look bad. If you don't know the dance, that's on you. It's not on me. I know the dance. Do you know the dance? But at the same time, after saying that, then I would lead by example. If we're in class and I want them to work hard, I'm working hard with them. if you're sweating, I'm sweating. I'm not gonna sit there and dictate from the background. And no, all right, let's work together. Come on, let's do it. We're working together. I'm gonna work right there with you. But at the end of the day, just know that I'm not going on stage. It's you. So it's like I'll be here as the example. I'm going to be motivated. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to let you know where you need to be at. Again, I will explain to you what the options are. What are the consequences of getting good grades, and what are the consequences of not getting good grades? But after that work is on you. If you need help, you have to talk to me. And again, opening up those lines of communication for them to trust you, to be like, I'm really having this issue where like, I really don't want to do this homework. Like, I just want to play this game, And then from there, if you have that, if you have that level of trust, then you can go in and go deeper and help. Like, okay, well, why are you so stuck on these video games? Is there something that's happening to you that you're trying to block out? A lot of times kids that get so stuck on social media or video games and stuff like that, a lot of the times it could be because they're trying to escape reality.
I was going to say escape. Well, yeah. I talked to a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old, and they said the high that they get when they accomplish a mission, in the video game, whatever it is. And they said it's such a sense of accomplishment that they can't even transfer it to grades. Now, with parents, it's hard. Like, when you're a dance teacher, the material. 9 out of 10 parents don't know the material. They feel helpless. They tell their child to talk to the teacher, arrange office hours. And when it doesn't, that's where, come on, did you make the appointment? Did you make the appointment? So do we just say, you know what? If they contact the teacher for help, great. If they don't, then it's natural consequences. Natural consequences.
No, I would say stay with them and do it. Like
no, but if you don't know how, like if it's calculus, if it's like some of my parents don't know how,
What I meant was like how when I was relaying that example of like, okay, we're gonna work in class, like I'm gonna work with you type deal.
Yeah.
So if they need to make an appointment because you don't know the material, be like, all right, we're making this appointment right now, but you're going to do it. And you stay with them. Here's the number, dial. This is what you say, blah, blah, blah. Here, we'll put you on speaker. Let them talk. Because that gives them confidence. When you make a kid do something by themselves, even if they F it up, and you make them do it themselves, but you're right there, that's actually a boost of confidence that you're giving them. Because the more independent you can make them feel like, hey, you can do this, the more they will rise to the occasion, no matter what it is. So just stay there and be like, all right, let's figure out this number. Who do you need to contact for a tutor? Okay, this place. All right, boom. Find the number. Okay, here's